that's the essence of why I created Gentle Mastery, because it was the trap I was caught in. It was the maze I was caught in. I kept thinking, if I can just get the productivity right, if I can just, you know, fit myself into the box that my current boss wants me to fit in for some reason, which is completely different from the box he wanted me to fit in yesterday, right? Then everything would be okay. And I would finally feel safe. And I never did. And one of the reasons why I got started on this, like I used to have as my very first phone wallpaper when I first started all of this, it was an image of a forest of trees, because they're like one of my major metaphors for what it means to be gentle and strong at the same time, because they're flexible. Bamboo works really well for this.
Yeah.
Bamboo is super flexible and gentle, but incredibly, incredibly, incredibly strong. Like you can build a building out of it,
Right.
right? And so I just had this image, and I had the word gentle, and then I had trans, underneath it upside down, I had the word strong, right?
Yeah.
So going back to some of those kinds of, but that was kind of part of the reason I had that, was to remind myself that I could make something of this gentle approach, right? So,
I think I love your message. I think it's coming in at the perfect time because there are a lot of these leading voices that are putting very high expectations on people. They're very unforgiving. And people, I think, are stressed out. My wife and I talk about this almost every night. The feeling of we're not doing enough, right?
yeah,
The feeling that if you're not like eating well, you don't have a beautiful home like that looks like it's ready to be photographed for a magazine, if you don't have a six pack, if you're not, if you don't have seven figures in the bank, you're somehow failing at life. You don't have like the picture perfect everything. Um, and I think there's so much desire to like have the good life that we're seeing online. People feel like they don't measure up and they're trying to do all of the things and check all the boxes. Um, and it's just makes them vulnerable to these types of teachers who come in and prey on this belief that they're not good enough.
yeah,
And, um, you know, they will tell them that they need to work harder and do more and be more organized and, and it really dehumanized essentially.
yes,
Become robotic. We can be we can have times, and I've had times even recently where I was extremely efficient with my schedule, very organized, but it's not always, I can't always be like that, right? It's like
right,
I have emotions, I need rest, I need times where I have balance, where, I just relax and don't worry about work. We can't always be moving at that pace. And the idea of having a gentle hand when it comes to yourself is extremely important. I mean, most people are quick to give kindness to others when they share their vulnerability. And then we're very hard on ourselves
yeah,
because I think, we expect the most of ourselves because we're depending on ourselves to give us like the life that we want, like in our mind, the life that we picture, we kind of depend on this person to sort of make that happen. And so like all expectations all are on ourselves and we don't really think too hard about giving some kindness to other people because it's like, well, we don't necessarily directly we're not directly affected by whether they do it or don't do it. So it's like, oh, don't be so hard on yourself. But like then they'll turn around and be hard on themselves, for the same exact thing 5 minutes later. So maybe I got off on a tangent there, but I think you get the idea, and I think it's perfect timing for this type of message.
I really appreciate hearing that, and here's what it brought up for me, and I'm going to say it for the tape so that I will remember later on.
Yeah,
Um, yeah, the standards by which we're being held and or holding ourselves, that's sort of become I work a lot of what I do is I talk about how everyday life, the life that you just described, is all in the bottom four sections of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, all the survival pieces. And who we really are is that self-actualized person who's at the top, right? And that what my work does is it helps people because most of the people I work with, and this is also means that it's just this narrow piece of who's out there, are people who have experienced that self-actualization, right? But they keep getting dropped down below what I call the border. And then when they try to cross the border again, there's always trouble at the border. So there's this metaphor that I use, right? But what you just said made me realize that Maslow's hierarchy of needs is about basic survival, right? It starts at the very bottom with food and shelter, then it goes to purpose, then it goes to love, and then it goes to like self-respect, right? Somehow in that order. What has been what you and your wife spend time talking about is this false impression of what we're told it means to be surviving now, right? When you really look at it, if you have if you have those four things solidly, but what you're doing is you're saying the roof over my head isn't ready to be in a shelter magazine tomorrow, right? Then that all of those things are distractions from you being able to actually self-actualize, right?
Yeah.
And actually live the life you want to live as opposed to the life that you're comparing yourself to, right? And that's the essence of why I created Gentle Mastery because it was the trap I was caught in. It was the maze I was caught in. I kept thinking, if I can just get the productivity right, if I can just, you know, fit myself into the box that my current boss wants me to fit in for some reason, which is completely different from the box he wanted me to fit in yesterday, right? Then everything would be okay. And I would finally feel safe. And I never did until I said, what is it that I need? And what I needed was to be gentle with myself, right? And then how can I utilize what I know about myself and what I know through my experiences in the world to help myself cross the border into self-actualization? And for the most part, stay there. Nobody stays there unless you're, Buddha or Gandhi or somebody, but then have tools when you fall down back into that survival, that monkey mind survival mode thing, where you can go, oh, wait a minute, here's a habit that Dave gave me with his Gentle Mastery course that I can use to get out of this mind space and get back into my gentle self, right?